Hi, welcome to session 4 of Leaders in Emerging Markets. My name is Pedro de la Rosa. I'm a second year MBA, also an EMI fellow at Cornell Johnson. And today we're going to be talking to JJ Carrasco, founder of Atoll Financial Group, who's going to be talking to us about the challenges of investment banking in emerging markets. Welcome. So, hi JJ, thank you for joining us today. And, just real quick, I wanted to ask you about the work you do at Atoll Financial Group, especially regarding the emerging markets. How do you approach these markets? What specific type of transactions or activities do you do in emerging markets?
Great, thank you. Glad to be here. We decided to work in emerging markets because they present a growth opportunity. I'm originally from Colombia and always was very fan of different cultures in different countries, and as part of the reason why we're in emerging markets. We focus in the energy sector because energy is needed everywhere, and we are active in the energy sector agnostically defined. We do renewable energy, clean technology, and energy efficiency, and biotech and life sciences, which is not so much. We find companies in emerging markets, but they to bring them here to the US. We like emerging markets because they present a lot of growth opportunities. Whereas in certain technologies in developed countries are not going to have that much of an impact, whereas in emerging markets they will.
Thank you so much. You mentioned the opportunities, these great opportunities that you can find in emerging markets. And I was wondering if you can share a little bit more about those opportunities, but also the challenges that you have seen in all your experience working with these emerging markets, both from the perspective of an investment bank, but also from the perspective of the companies in these emerging markets that are looking to raise capital or do M&A activity, for example.
So for the companies in emerging markets, it's difficult to access capital, right? Because operating in emerging markets is risky. You have regulatory risk, you have currency risk. Sometimes different countries have different levels of legal infrastructure, and so it presents a very challenging environment in certain situations. That said, though, the impact that technologies may have in those countries is far more than what they would have here. In terms of return on investment, typically you could get better return on investment in emerging market countries. In some emerging market countries, not always the case. But it's not an easy environment to operate in.
Well, thank you for sharing, JJ. And now that you mentioned, all these, challenges and opportunities and the great potential for returns in these emerging markets, I would also like to ask you something regarding now the human capital related to all of these transactions. For example, as you know, we're going to be in a class full of potential leaders, right? So, can you describe the traits or the leadership that you have had to take through all these years to take Atoll Financial Group where it is now, and what it takes to actually go and close transactions overseas in markets and countries with, as you mentioned, different regulations, different cultures, etc., that that are material to the transaction and to the results that you can get.
Of course. So operating from the US gives you a certain advantage because the US has different departments, like the Department of Commerce, that will help a US company going into emerging markets. Also, different countries have different trade agreements with the US, which also facilitates operating in emerging markets. Probably the number one rule is that you need to have a presence on the ground. And if you don't have a presence on the ground, you can get through the Department of Commerce and the local embassies, consulates around the world, connections that you tell them what is the criteria. For example, we were working on a transaction in which we're exporting specialty chemicals for the optimization of transportation of crude oil and production in a way that's cleaner for the environment, but we needed contacts on the ground. So the Department of Commerce basically put us in contact with the commercial attaché of each embassy in each country, and they do a research. We give them the criteria of who we want, what is the qualification that we want, and they basically do the research and give us a few names, 5, 6, 7 names, and then we interview with them and develop those relationships. And in terms of leading the company to emerging markets, in my case, since I was building a team, when building the team, we build people that have cross-border transaction experience, and that are interested in the modus operandi that we have and in the objective of the company. Because for us, that was part of our mantra. We want to be in emerging markets, so everyone that joined the team either had experience in emerging markets or also endorses the concept of being in emerging markets.
All right, thank you for sharing those insights, JJ. And now going more into the more friendly territory, I would like to ask, you're about to go to be the keynote speaker, the lecturer of today's class. So what are your expectations of the class? What are you hoping to learn and also be able to share with the students?
I'm pretty excited about it because over the years we have an internship program, which is always very exciting. Students come with lots of ideas, lots of goals, cutting edge access to technology and everything that's happening in different sectors. So it's a very exciting endeavor. And we learn a lot from interns and we learn a lot from students because, like I said, they're very creative. They're excited with a recent body of knowledge that they're looking to deploy. So we often learn from them. I think one of the things that I can convey, we're not a large investment bank, we're a boutique investment bank, we're small. But we ended up playing with the big boys, which makes it very difficult for us because we don't have the balance sheet of the large investment banks. So when we operate in a way that has to be very, very thoughtful of our balance sheet, right? And so we are very aggressive in terms of due diligence, in terms of sourcing deal flow, so we can basically operate in a way that it doesn't become too expensive for us. By the same token, when we pick working with a company, we gotta make sure that we're doing a good job at picking the right horse, so to speak, because our profit center is closing the transactions, right? It doesn't matter if the companies are gonna pay us retainers and all that stuff. Really, where we are profitable is closing the transactions, and ultimately, besides closing the transactions, where we'll have impact, which is another reason or main reason why we do what we do. We only actually affect that impact by closing transactions.
Absolutely. Mostly in emerging markets, the best deal is a closed deal.
Absolutely. That's true everywhere.
It's true everywhere. Lastly, we were speaking earlier, and you mentioned about the importance that it has for you, this work-life balance. And I would like to also ask a little bit about that because, at the end, it's not just, we have a professional face, we also have a professional face or mask, if you will. And I think both of them are important. So would you mind sharing with us what are your hobbies, your passion, what do you like to do when you're not being an investment banker in emerging markets?
So it's a great question because I think the life-work balance is very important. I'm a very active guy, very physical, so from the beginning I was very active. I did kart racing for 4 years, formation skydiving for 5.5 years. Last year I decided to become a yoga instructor and I teach power vinyasa, so it's really coming this week. I'll bring you to class. But I think it's really important to have work-life balance. And for me, the way to maintain an edge professionally, manage stress and have focus and so on, is really having other activities, right? I really don't believe it. I know it's maybe not normal for an investment banker to say this, but I believe, of course, money is important and I'm ambitious and so on, but you need to do other things, right? There are things that you cannot buy with all the money you have. You may have all the money in the world, but you're going to be 25 only one time in your life, right? And there are certain situations that you can only live at that time, right? No matter how much money you have. So I think that it's really important to do the fun stuff and have a good life and be very frugal with time. Time is very, very important.
That is great advice, and I'll take your word. I'll take your word on that. I'm absolutely taking one of those classes if I'm in DC, which I plan to be soon.
Yeah. Epic Yoga DC.
I'll let you know. Well, thank you so much for all of those great insights on working on emerging markets, on leadership, on how to balance the personal and the professional life, the importance, the frugality of time, and the importance of doing things at the moment. But anyways, thank you so much for joining us. We're really glad you were able to make it all the way to Ithaca. We really appreciate that, and I hope you enjoy your class.
Well, thank you very much for spending time with me and for the opportunity. I think it's great to pass the baton to the next generation, so to speak. So thank you so much for it.
All right.
But I think for me is the fact that I started the bank not having a financial
Exactly, my God, yeah.
and have a team. It's like I say, I'm the least qualified person in my company.
You say that?
Yeah, they're all MBAs from Ivy League schools. Everyone, seriously.
Yeah, you